When we delve deeper into the study of the human psyche, we find that the phenomenon of narcissism is not just an apparent behavior, but a complex psychological construct that stems from a combination of inner weakness and a desperate need for recognition and appreciation. It is said that he who does not know his own secrets remains a stranger to himself, and it is important to understand that a narcissistic person often carries deep wounds in his heart that have not yet healed, which prompts him to decorate himself with appearances of greatness and perfection. Imagine standing in front of the mirror of your soul and noticing the contrasting reflections. On one side is the glow of absolute confidence, while on the other side lies the fear of rejection and criticism. This contradiction is what makes narcissism an internal battleground, where a sense of uniqueness and a sense of inadequacy collide. One of the experiences from which we can glean wisdom are those moments we have had with people who were looking for acclaim at all costs. They were living in a world of falsehood, seeking to satisfy a never-ending hunger for admiration and attention. In such moments, we learn that narcissism is only a mask that tries to hide a deep inner pain, and that the path to recovery begins with understanding this pain and not falling into the trap of glamorization. In this psychological space, self-compassion comes first. When we recognize that we as human beings are vulnerable, we can help ourselves before we try to fix others. As the saying goes, he who heals his own wounds can help others. This is how we can begin to understand the relationship with the narcissist without losing our identity or getting lost in the maze. Knowing the motives behind the narcissist's behavior and distinguishing between the person's desire for control and their search for unconditional appreciation helps us draw our boundaries clearly without losing sight of the need for understanding and compassion. Every behavior has roots, and every wound needs to be healed. These are the signs of narcissism and how to recognize them. Let's talk about the signs that may reveal a narcissistic personality in our surroundings. A narcissistic person often exhibits traits such as excessive boasting, over-reliance on the praise of others, and a tendency to exploit relationships for their own benefit without considering the feelings of the other party. A wise man once said, "It is not hidden to the eyes what is painted on the face." And here we see how this is reflected in his behavior. In every meeting, he looks for a touch of admiration, and in every conversation, you notice his desire to be the center of attention. A narcissist avoids criticism in all its forms and considers any objection as a threat to their self-image. If the idea of constructive criticism is brought up, they may respond sarcastically or divert the conversation to themselves. This calls for deep reflection. How can we distinguish between meaningful criticism and criticism that threatens the narcissist's ego? In one real-life experience that I had the opportunity to observe closely, there was a business partner who was admired by everyone, but who ignored the opinions of colleagues and didn't listen to their concerns. He always shifted the conversation to his own accomplishments, and when advice or criticism was offered, he became irritable, and the criticism was an intolerable personal attack. Thus, the signs of narcissism can be summarized as follows. 1. Excessive need for admiration and attention. 2. Lack of empathy for others. 3. Control and constant striving to appear perfect. 4. Inability to accept criticism or mistakes. A proverb that applies wisely in this context is, "If one wants to see the true nature of the mirror, one should look into the eyes of those who don't like the reflection." This proverb reminds us that interacting with a narcissist reveals their true colors. It is not enough to look at their outward words. We must pay attention to their behaviors and reactions in stressful and challenging situations. Recognizing these signs is an essential step in determining how to deal with this type of person. Once we recognize that narcissistic behavior is a reaction to an internal wound, we can set clear boundaries for ourselves without falling into the trap of trying to fix what can't be easily fixed. Now, I'll share with you strategies on how to deal with a narcissist. When we decide to confront a narcissist, we must first realize that changing their behavior is rarely in our hands. The first responsibility is to protect ourselves and regain our psychological equilibrium. So, let's start. First, set clear boundaries. Clearly define what is acceptable and unacceptable in your interactions with him. Don't hesitate to express your feelings and boundaries. It reflects your self-esteem. As the saying goes, he who respects himself teaches others how to treat him. Secondly, don't get into unproductive conflicts. A narcissist often likes to draw others into endless discussions. Be careful not to get sucked in. When you try to discuss a topic with him, he may turn the conversation into his stubbornness. Remember that the goal is not to win the argument, but to preserve your inner peace. Third, maintain emotional distance. Learn to separate what's yours from what's his, and don't put yourself under the pressure of his constant expectations or analysis. Sometimes, emotional distance is the only way to keep your cool. Fourth, rely on outside support. Don't be afraid to ask for help from people you trust, whether it's friends or psychologists. Having a support network to help you get through adversity is an essential part of dealing with a narcissist. In one of my personal experiences, I had an encounter with a coworker who had clearly narcissistic behaviors, always trying to impose his opinions regardless of the team's input. I learned from that experience that choosing your words carefully and using specific phrases such as, "I appreciate your point of view, but let's look at it from another angle," helped me avoid slipping into endless arguments. Realizing that you can't change the other person, only your reaction to them, frees you from the shackles of frustration. Don't waste your time trying to change what can't be changed. Invest it in building yourself. The old saying goes, sometimes the smartest solution is to set firm boundaries and remain silent when things escalate. Silence is sometimes more powerful than words, and gives you the opportunity to calmly assess the situation before making your next decision. Dealing with a narcissist requires a delicate balance between self-confidence and being careful not to get sucked into the vortex of self-criticism. Always remember that taking care of yourself comes first, and that everyone has the right to maintain their dignity and inner peace. In this axis, we delve into the experiences I've had watching humans interact with a narcissist. One of the most impactful experiences was with a friend who had a long relationship with a partner who exhibited narcissistic traits. She was telling me one night, "I felt like I was losing a part of myself with every hurtful word, with every attempt to convince him that my opinion was worthless." This experience taught us a profound lesson. I realized that continuing to try to please someone who doesn't value you is tantamount to surrendering to extreme circumstances. Hence the saying, it's not brave to continue to put in effort for someone who doesn't appreciate your perfume. It's brave to restore your value and revive your soul. I had another experience with a colleague who bragged about his accomplishments and minimized the contributions of others. In a meeting, I saw how his comments were undermining the team's self-confidence and how everyone was avoiding discussions with him for fear of being ridiculed. We learned that self-confidence is not a gift to be given, but a fortress to be built day by day. In those awkward moments, a simple and sometimes honest response was the best remedy. Someone said, "Let's show the world that our value is not measured by how ignorant others are of our knowledge and wisdom." Thus, each of us has a role to play in protecting ourselves from the negative influences around us, whether from narcissists or others. Let us always remember that every experience has a learning aspect. Every time we face a challenge, it is an opportunity to develop our character and gain new wisdom. If we can turn pain into strength, the challenge becomes a door to growth of the soul and brightening of the mind. Real-life experiences, no matter how harsh, carry with them the seeds of maturity. It teaches us that life is not just about others, but about how to turn every experience into a valuable lesson in personal development. And now we come to the coolest paragraph: self-preservation and empowerment. After learning about the nature of narcissism and how to deal with its behaviors, we move on to self-preservation and inner strength. This is where you need to rearrange your priorities and look for sources that nourish your soul and restore your confidence. A wise man once said, "When you take care of yourself, the sun of your life shines in every corner." Self-care is not limited to physical practices, but extends to the spiritual and mental side. One of the most important steps you can take is to make time for meditation, reading, and practicing hobbies that nurture you. For example, when I felt that the hustle and bustle of a stressful relationship was starting to take its toll on me, I resorted to journaling and meditating on nature. Every time I sat down with a book or looked at the sunrise, my heart would calm down and my mind would gain a glimmer of wisdom. In this context, the proverb comes to mind, "He who takes care of himself takes care of his future." Self-preservation is an investment in your soul, an investment that brings you peace and the ability to face life's challenges with strength and faith. Finding positive circles of support, whether it's good friends or spiritual mentors, is an important factor in immunizing yourself from the influences of narcissistic people. They are like mirrors that reflect your true worth and remind you that you are not alone in the battle of life. And let's not overlook the importance of internal dialogue. The more you talk to yourself with words of love and appreciation, the more peaceful you will feel. You can say things like, "I am strong, I am worthy, every experience has taught me a lesson, and nothing can stop me from striving for the best." Sometimes the road is long and full of challenges, but every step you take towards self-care brings back some of the passion of life. In the end, dealing with a narcissist becomes an experience that teaches us the value of patience and self-respect, and that the real victory is the triumph of the soul over all that tries to destabilize it. We have reached the final minutes of our journey in this deep conversation, where we gather thoughts and organize feelings into a complete canvas. We have recognized the manifestations and roots of narcissism, and we have learned that dealing with it does not require us to change it as much as it requires us to protect ourselves and invest our energy in the development of our soul. Life's greatest lessons are those that teach us how to reprioritize, how to turn every experience, no matter how painful, into a lesson. It's not failure in the face of those who don't value you. It's failure in forgetting your own light. Remember that each of us has a hidden strength, and dealing with people who are difficult to understand requires us to always be up to the challenge. Despite all the difficulties, it is your choice to remain true to yourself and always choose to light your way with the light that comes from within. To conclude this conversation, I want you to live every moment as an opportunity to rediscover yourself and make every experience a valuable lesson that enriches your soul. Don't let any experience undermine your self-confidence, but rather make it an incentive to be the best version of yourself. I ask God to illuminate your paths, to help you build a life full of tranquility and wisdom, and to find in every experience a lesson that leads you towards a brighter future.